Sorry, I can't hear you. Oh. Okay. All right. Is everyone here for the badge talk? Yeah? All right.
Look, we got one.
Yay,
Wow, that was
badge.
loud.
Yeah. All right. So, I'm CompuKid Mike. See some other badges I've designed in the past. This is my first SAINTCON doing the badge, and it's been crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, my name's Mike Weaver. Most people here know me as Bash Ninja. I don't know why, it's weird. They just call me that. I'm a member of 801 Labs, so if you guys haven't heard of them, you should check them out. They're a great group, a hackerspace here in Salt Lake. I'm new to helping with badge design. I came and helped Mike like a little bit late into the process to do the code, and we'll talk about that in a second.
All right, so I don't know if any of you guys know what happened with the badge this year, but the previous badge maker had family issues come up and last minute couldn't do the badge. So Troy contacted me on June 20th and said, hey, can you do a badge? On July 9th, I ordered the first prototype, so just under 3 weeks from concept to full working prototype. Next, on August 2nd, we ordered the production run of badges. So we didn't have much time with the prototype to test. We had 43 days from the time Troy contacted me until we ordered 1,200 badges.
Yeah, so that badge, that's 43 days of work. It's actually like months of work all in 43 days. Like, that's pretty insane. But we're super excited it worked out.
Yeah, and I mean, that's, working nights. Like, we still got day jobs and families, and it's a little nuts. So everything after that was working on code. I did 21 different mini badge designs, sourcing all the parts. Things like the nice laser cut plastic that went on the back, that was an afterthought. So that all happened afterwards.
Yeah, so all the conference mini badges that you got from the villages, that came in your packet, things like that, those are all from CompuKid Mike. He designed those and built those up probably between the hours of 1 a.m. and 2 a.m.
Yeah. So a little bit about the badge. Most of you probably already know if you've played with it. It's an ESP32 Wi-Fi module. We're running MicroPython this year, which is a first for this conference. Nice LED matrix, 12 mini badge spots.
Yep. This badge has some cool special features. A lot of them we haven't had before, but this one I liked. This is my favorite part, is the AP and client modes. So you can actually create a Wi-Fi hotspot off of your badge and then connect to it and then configure settings on the badge. And if you haven't done that, check it out. That's super cool. CompuKid Mike, he designed the custom menu system, so you can go through and just on the badge itself change the brightness and turn things on and off. He also has some I2C communication. So last year they came up with a mini badge spec, that's the little badges, and this year we decided to implement the I2C. That means the host badge can talk to the mini badges and vice versa. And so there's been some mini badges where if you plug them in, it'll change the message and things like that. And that's super cool, and that's a first for mini badges that we've ever done.
Yep.
We also put hidden CTF challenges on your badge for the hackerschallenge.org stuff. So there should be around 4 or 5 of them.
There's 5.
So try and find all of them. They're not too hard, except for the last one, which, can I give a hint for it?
Sure.
Yeah, it requires you find a specific mini badge, and then that's all I'll say. But that one requires a specific mini badge. It's not on your badge itself.
Yeah. All right, some fun stats about the badge. So we did make 1,200 badges total. And they each have 256 LEDs in that 8x32 matrix, which means there's 307,200 LEDs on badges this year.
Not all in one place, thankfully.
But it is a ridiculous number.
Yeah.
Not really, because we had these all assembled in China, and we said, hey, we need a cheap red LED, and they said, okay. That was about it. If we needed to source them in the States, then yes. There are very few LEDs on places like DigiKey where they have more than 300,000 available.
Yep. Any other feedback or questions? Go ahead.
Yeah.
He asked if we had it assembled by them. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so that is an option. We did it.
He asked if they source the parts or if we mailed them parts.
Yeah, so we did a full turnkey. So we gave them a bill of materials and the board files, and they did everything. That's the way I prefer it when working overseas, because trying to ship parts to them and get them through customs and then get them there in a decent amount of time, it's just easier for them to order it directly.
Yeah. And what board house did you use?
I used all PCB.
All PCB.
Okay. Any question?
So he's asking about customs and what process we would recommend to make that easy.
I don't know that there's an easy way to do it because it's random, it seems. Sometimes customs gets in the way, sometimes they just don't care. We did have to pay customs on the badges coming in. I think it ended up being like $40-something. I don't know where they came up with that number, but that's what they charged us. Oh, okay. They labeled them as machine parts, so go with a good Chinese manufacturer that'll do stuff like that. Yeah, question?
The Wi-Fi password? There's other ways?
Other
Yes.
than what?
Yes.
Other ways? The mini badge is not part of the Wi-Fi password one. Yeah.
Yeah, the mini badge is hidden message.
You're talking about the challenges? Yes, there are multiple ways to get the Wi-Fi password.
There's a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Any other questions, feedback? Do you guys like the badge? Does it look cool? So I kind of want to hear some feedback. Like, what are your guys' favorite parts about the badge? Like, what do you like? What do you think is crap? Like, can you give us some feedback? Like, that's the first word, feedback.
Be brutally honest so we can make it better.
Exactly, and that's what we really are doing here.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, thank
Thanks.
you. He's saying the badge doesn't crash. That's awesome because it was crashing for a while.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So
He's saying that his badge, the text will freeze every once in a while.
there are multiple reasons for that. When the battery gets low, the LED matrix is the first thing that stops working, and it will just randomly freeze.
Yeah.
There have been issues with the I2C communication with mini badges. Some of them tend to cause issues. There are a lot of technical reasons for that, and I don't know that there are good fixes. So, yeah. If it's working, it'll pretty much work. Freezes wouldn't be caused by a bad board, so it would just not work.
But the freezes are probably because we don't have anything on the badge that can tell how the charge is on the battery.
Right.
Like, it can't tell at all, which is unfortunate, but you just wait till it turns off, so.
Yeah. Then it's probably a mini badge issue. Do you have any mini badges that communicate with it? Like the stage 2 mini badge or? Oh.
Yeah, he asked if the stage 2 mini badge does, and
So
sometimes.
every mini badge that uses I2C tends to occasionally have glitches. And it's not the mini badge maker's fault so much as just I2C can be unreliable when you're using software-based I2C communications, which all the mini badges use AT-tiny chips, so they have to use software I2C, and the main board also uses software I2C, and it's just unreliable.
Okay.
Other feedback? Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there were lots of things that we wanted to do with badge-to-badge communications, but yeah, no time, and there can also be issues with that. I know a couple of years ago there was a narwhal incident. So having badges that can talk to one another can be problematic. But yeah, definitely something we want to do in the future.
We looked into doing badge-to-badge communication, and I kind of really wanted to do it over Bluetooth, since we're pulling Hackers Challenge data from the Hackers website. But MicroPython has not built anything for us to talk to the Bluetooth layer. So it would be super cool if sometime later they give Bluetooth features, and then we can, like I was hoping we could implement the Defcon Bluetooth spec, so they would interact with other badge makers' badges as well. But they haven't done it yet, so we couldn't hit that layer yet. Hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. So he asked, why MicroPython instead of Arduino?
A lot of different reasons. So I did Arduino on the OpenWest badge earlier this year, and that was an ESP8266. And there were a lot of issues with getting Arduino set up properly, all the right libraries installed, just getting the IDE set up to properly build code for the badge was a pain.
And that's issues for you guys,
Yeah.
not for us.
Right.
Because we could do it, it wasn't a problem, but lots of people wanted to hack on it themselves.
Yeah, and so MicroPython offered a small single-file IDE that didn't require crazy installations and whatnot, and made it easy for you guys to mess with the badge.
Yep. Yes. Linux, unless you have Ubuntu 16.04, it's kind of a pain because he built it weird and linked library. I don't know, some Chinese software.
Yeah, and Mac also has lots of issues with the serial driver for the USB to serial chip on these boards. So, I mean, I'm running a Mac and I run a Windows VM to use the IDE.
Same, I
because
did
it
the
just
same.
works better.
Yeah. But I liked going around and seeing people with the IDE, like pulling the code down, because when it's in Arduino, it's all compiled code, you know, and we don't want to give you the raw code because there's all those hackers challenges until they close the CTF. But I wanted you guys to have code and be able to play with it super easy. So hopefully MicroPython did that. I mean, do you like it? What do you think? Okay, so he's
Yes.
saying that he tried to download the main.py and it was running out of memory.
Yes, and that was an issue we did not foresee because we never actually pulled it down from the badge. We were always going the other direction. So yeah, that seems to be a weird issue with MicroPython that I didn't know about. Yeah. Yeah.
You said he used Adafruit's Ambi to get it.
Cool.
Is that AMBY? Yep, AMBY.
Okay.
I've never heard of
Awesome.
that, so that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead. So you're
Yes.
saying the curved LCD screen's hard to read, and I agree.
Yes, it is hard to read. So this is one of those things where in the initial meeting about the badge, an LED matrix was requested, and so we made it happen. Putting a diffuser of some sort in front of it would help that a lot. I don't know if you've tried just sticking a piece of paper in front of it. It makes it really, really readable. But then you can't see all the LEDs and it doesn't look as cool, so yeah.
Sorry, but
Yeah.
thanks for the feedback.
Yeah. Should I- Oh, okay. So just use the pink bag for a diffuser. Okay,
Yep.
very nice.
He said he heard about shipping problems, and he's worried that that might cause lots of people problems of why it didn't happen this year, and maybe will it happen next year?
So we were concerned, as always. I mean, when we submitted the production run, the estimated time was 6 to 8 weeks. And that would have put us, a week before the conference-ish. They ended up getting it to us a lot quicker than that. We had badges around the 1st of September. So they got them to us in a month, which was really, really nice. And we didn't hit any of the new crazy tariffs that are supposed to be happening. I don't know why, but we got lucky, I guess. So yeah, we just mainly got lucky and ordered early enough to not run into shipping issues.
Yeah. We did. It was kind of fun. It was a little scary. We ordered all the Wallins,
Yeah.
and we ordered like thousands of these, and there's only one company that'll sell them, and it took them, weeks before they even acknowledged that we had their order, and then all of a sudden shipped.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we actually got confirmation that they had in stock enough for us, but they didn't actually have them made. And so that was why it took so long, as they were actually producing these boards for us before we got them shipped.
Troy said he lost all his hair, and that's the only reason he doesn't.
Yeah, good. Mm-hmm.
He's asking, how do you vet the Chinese companies and the different electronics that they have?
So that's one of the big challenges and one of the big stress points, I guess. I mean, we looked at, domestic companies to have these produced and everything, and the prices were just astronomical. I mean, 10 to 20 times what we were quoted from China. So we did get multiple quotes. We didn't go with the cheapest. So kind of picked middle of the pack, and it's usually a safe-ish bet. Whether or not the chips on here are counterfeit, I have no idea. They seem to work. So yeah, I mean, the PCB manufacturer, I've used them a lot in the past. Never for board assembly, but for circuit boards themselves, and I haven't had any issues with them. So just kept with it.
And that was all PCBs?
Yeah, all PCB.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chandler. He asked what the cost per badge was.
Okay, so cost per badge was roughly $20. That includes parts, assembly, boards, shipping. What? No.
No.
That doesn't include labor. No. I'm a volunteer. I'm not paid for this.
Come on, Troy. No. Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks, Troy. He was saying we did a lot of work, and yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
How much did just the Wallin cost?
The Wallin was
That's-
$650
Yeah.
per module.
Yeah, so that was a big chunk right there, just that board, and that's something you can pull out and do all kinds of cool projects on.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think I'm doing a village talk around 2 o'clock today. I'm going to talk about lots of cool projects you can do outside of the badge, and actually how to open up the IDE and just show you on a screen and pull down some of the code and start hacking at it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. He asked if we had the board manufacturer assemble the prototypes.
No, I hand assembled the prototypes.
So, is
uh,
that a prototype?
This is not a prototype.
So I have one at the 801's booth, and they hand soldered every
So, okay.
one of those LEDs.
I did use a solder paste stencil, put it through a reflow oven. It still took me about 45 minutes to hand place all 256 LEDs. So it was, yeah, still a lot of work.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
So he asked, on the time frame that we've got, like, what was the process? What do we do at each step?
Okay, so up until we actually did the assembly run, it was the same as any other board. You know, go through circuit board design, generate your Gerber files, send them to the board house, and they make boards for you. The actual assembly part was a lot of back and forth with the company. We would send them the bill of materials, and they would come back and say, we can't get this part, is this one okay? Mostly with things like capacitors, resistors, they have their own local sources, and so most of those things, you know, that's fine. There were some issues with getting the right LED. They picked one that was fairly expensive and like tripled our cost. So we had to go back and forth with them and find a better, cheaper one. I guess better is not the right word. A cheaper LED just to keep costs down, because 256 of anything adds up really quick. Does that kind of answer your question?
And then we went to Defcon and said, we're not going to do code till after Defcon, because we had so many other projects that we were already committed to doing before we said we'd do this. And then came back from Defcon in August, right at the beginning, said, okay, let's do the code now.
Yep.
Yeah. And then from there, we just sat on our computers in the dark.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Go ahead. Okay, so he's asking, once you connect to the Wi-Fi, how do you change things on the display?
Well, you did the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so I actually did that code. What you have to do is you have to put it, it's not actually you connect to the same Wi-Fi as them. These actually create their own Wi-Fi network connection. So what you'll do, can I borrow your badge real quick?
Maybe.
Ooh,
That's all attached.
Okay, so you've got your select button here on the right of the badge. And if you hit the select button, it puts it into the config mode where you can open the different config settings. If you go up, let's see, 1, 2, 3, you'll see Wi-Fi config. You just hit select, and then it puts it in AP mode. So now this disconnected from the Wi-Fi here, and it started its own Wi-Fi connection. And it'll scroll an SSID, and then it'll scroll a password, which we won't show. Because the passwords are unique to each badge, and you can flash them, but they'll still have the same SSID and password, so that your laptop will continually reconnect. So once you connect to that, you'll get a network connection to this, and then you need to connect to the badge itself. And the IP address for that is 192.168.4.1, and you can just look at the IP that you've got and just connect to the gateway, and that's what it is, the IP you have on your laptop.
You might want to clarify, you just open up a web browser, go to that, it's a web server.
Yeah, so he says clarify, this actually hosts a web server, so you open up a browser and put that IP address into a browser, and it shows you a web page with settings that you can change.
And
so what is the IP? 192.168.4.1.
And let me clarify there as well. After you type in that address and hit enter, you wait and wait and wait and wait. Web servers are very slow on embedded devices like this. It's a good 20 seconds to load the page. So it's not broken, just slow.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So, I tried that last night, and it never came back to the web browser.
It's your code.
He said he tried it last night. It didn't work. I'm sorry. If you want to talk to me after, I can probably show you how it's broken. I'm not sure, but I haven't seen that happen very often.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry about that. I'll try and work with you if you want. Go ahead. So is the web server running Python? So there is actually a library called Micro Web Server for MicroPython. Some guy wrote this really sweet asynchronous library. Like, we tried to build one ourselves, and it was super glitchy. Like, and I'm not a very good coder. I'm good enough, but not as good as the guy who wrote that library. And so that library, you can't actually pull the Python file down because it has to be put in as a frozen module, which means it's pre-compiled and it's not just compiled on run. But yes, there's a Python library in there that runs the web server. So he's asking about frozen modules, and if I will explain it later today. Not now, we're not set up to talk about it.
No, I mean, we do have time if anyone else wants to hear a little bit about it. Yeah? Okay,
Yeah.
go for it.
Okay,
Do you want to use this, or do you want to just tell them how it's
so frozen modules tell you how it's done, and then if you come to the talk, I'm doing it too, I'll show it on a screen. But the gist of the frozen modules is when you're MicroPython, they've just written the interpreter in Arduino. It'll interpret the Python. And as part of it, they have a folder called modules in the firmware before you build it when it's in the raw code. And you put your Python modules into that. And then when you build the firmware, this is not the Python code that we've uploaded, just the firmware that you flash first. It will compile those Python files into the bytecode. And then into the firmware itself, and then when you upload that, it can access it there. It's a little complicated to get the build environment set up. Like, okay, it's pretty complicated. But once you do, it uses a lot less memory if your code is pre-compiled.
Right, and it runs a lot faster too.
Yes. And so that specific module was too big, and we couldn't put it in an uncompiled format, so we had to build it into the firmware.
Yep.
So he said, I said Arduino, and did I use UPyCraft or Arduino? Neither. To build the firmware, you use GCC. If I remember right, that's what it uses.
I don't know, I didn't get to that,
Yeah.
doing that part. So.
It just uses GCC, and it'll compile it there. I compiled it on my Mac, just there. I'm sure it'll be easy in Linux. I have no idea how easy it would be to do in Windows. I didn't even try. Yeah, they've got, if you search for the MicroPython docs, they will have some steps on there, how to compile the firmware. The frozen modules, you just have to remember there's a folder called modules in that, in your ports folder for your specific device, and you just put them in there, and then they'll just be compiled into the firmware. Yep. Cool. Any other questions or feedback?
Yeah. Okay, well,
So he's saying when he tried to flash it, it didn't work. He had to ground a pin, and
to flash it with what? Uh-huh.
oh, he's saying at the flashing
Oh,
station.
the flashes.
Yeah. So
That's really interesting.
So he says they're shorting out the FTDI to cause it to reset. There is a reset button that you hit a couple times.
So, yeah, I did have a couple instances where boards wouldn't flash at the flashing station, and by plugging in and hitting the reset button at what seemed to be the right time, it would randomly work. So,
It
yeah.
has to do with MicroPython and if it's in the mode to accept writes. And that's
Okay.
really kind of finicky, and I saw the same thing, and it was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just hit reset a bunch of times until it finally
Yeah,
works.
It's kind of a little strange, and yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, any other feedback or questions? No, I don't see any.
I've got some feedback.
All right. Yeah.
You saying
Yeah.
is the schematic and bill of materials on GitHub?
It will be, yes. After the conference and after I sleep, yes. We'll put it up. Yes, raw source as well. We'll all go up there. Probably, we'll do that tomorrow after the Hacker Challenge is finished.
Yep.
We'll upload all that.
You should have most of the source code. There's only like a few bits that you won't have that are put. Okay, so there's some hidden bits in frozen modules that you won't have, but the rest of it you pretty much can pull down from the board itself. Okay.
I get the last word?
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. I figured I'd just totally take over the last bit of their talk to do nothing more than to thank them profusely. I don't know if there was a slide before this one. In fact, I'm going to go back. Did we talk about, like, not really, because I'm going through your slide deck.
That's fine.
sorry.
Go for it.
Like, on June 20th, that was the day that we knew that Luke wasn't going to be able to do the badge. And I immediately called this guy, like 5 minutes later. It was 5 minutes later when Luke was like, you know what, I've just had twins. We're going to be extremely busy, and I don't think that we can make this work. And so I called this guy, and I was expecting to hear this, like, there's no way I can do this. Like, what are you talking about? There's no lead time. There's no nothing. But I got, in fact, it was on Slack, I think. If I remember right, it was on Slack. I'm like, hey, like, would you be willing to consider designing and doing the SAINTCON badge? And I get back this message, are you kidding me? And at the time, I'm like, oh, you know, like, okay, yeah, he's not going to want to do this. But I didn't get the context or the emotion behind it. He's like, are you kidding me? I would love to do this kind of thing. And so anyways, we met up and stuff. It's been an incredibly cooperative and well-run and well-designed process this year. I've been impressed with both of these guys and their ability to just get in, do these things, design the badge, get through production schedule, because I'm a stickler. I mean, how many times did I call you like, are we in production yet? When is this badge going to be designed yet? You know, and stuff. And I think he knows that I do it out of love and just concern for, are we going to have badges for this conference? I mean, we're charging people, we're registering people already, and that includes badge costs and things. And so people are expecting this, and man, are we even going to have them? And so I lose a lot of sleep at night for that, but they've done an incredible job. And I just want to, while we're here talking in the badge talk, just say I couldn't be more pleased, happy, and frankly surprised that we were able to pull this off this year like we did. And there was a question about badge costs over here just a little bit, and I want to address that because when we do the badge design stuff, we budget for about $50 per badge. That's what the normal badge costs are. These guys have come in fact, I looked at the numbers this morning when we were doing some other budgetary things. We've spent $32,000 this year on badge costs. And so if you divide that by about the 1,100 or so, we're at the, you know, it's about $26, $27 per badge. But that includes mini badge design or not design costs, but mini badge production and things like that too. So these guys have done an incredible job. If you want to know where all the rest of the money went, it's all in those little coolers outside with all of those drinks. So when we knew that we were going to save money on it, we immediately turned it around and thought, let's bring back something cool. So anyways, thank you very much. I've got a really cool prize for these guys, or not prize so much, you don't get a prize for the badge design. I've got a really incredible thank you gift we'll give to them tomorrow during our closing ceremonies section. But that's all of the commandeering of your talk that I'll do at this point. But thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And thank you, Mike. Most of that was him.
Thanks. Thanks.
Very cool.
All right, any last questions, complaints?
What is next year's badge? Oh my.
Oh boy, now you've done
What
it.
is next year's badge? That's a good question.
This will be news to me too, so here we go.
It's not news to you. It's a secret.
But we've got something really cool planned. Hey, are we sticking with the Minibadge?
He says, are we sticking with Minibadge?
Yes, for the foreseeable
Yes.
future, mini badges will be a thing.
Forever. Future compatible, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, just stay up here.
You know, I think it's Luke's brainchild,
Yeah,
the mini badge thing.
they're amazing.
But it has changed the dynamic of badges and things. In fact, we started seeing it this year. Defcon put their, we'll call them their crappy add-on headers or whatever, and things like that. So if you're going to some of these other conferences, these little add-on pieces have now become a thing. I don't know if we started it. Maybe there was great ideas or great minds think alike kind of thing. But we're actually going to start taking headers that will adapt Utah or SAINTCON mini badges to other conference badges, to some of these other cons. So if you're out there at DEFCON, come find the SAINTCON folks, and we'll give you the headers to plug your mini badges into DEFCON badges and stuff. But how incredible, right? And 12 slots worth.
It's a lot of power.
And it does. I mean,
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Mine, I plugged the battery fully charged in at 8:20 this morning.
Yep.
And it died while I was sitting over here just a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
If you don't plug in your mini badges, it lasts a long time, almost all day, but they do suck the juice.
Yeah.
And
So.
speaking of those headers, we actually have a couple packs of those for the Defcon, the mini badge at the 801 booth.
Yeah.
We have some there,
So
so
these
you
guys
can
have
just go.
already preemptively done that, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm not gonna leave until.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Anything else while we're up here?
Great job.
All right.
All right, thank you. If you have more
Yeah, thanks.
questions or feedback, you can
Yeah,
find
yeah.
us afterwards. We'll probably stick around for a
we'll
few
be
minutes.
around. Yeah.
We have 10 minutes before
Yeah.
this room gets taken, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be here.
all right, thank
All
you.
right, thanks, guys.